what the need be for use.
Maybe so, but like
I don't know.
Chris said, we'd have a little more control, and then,
That's fine.
is that, Susan, is that allowable to get a second permit?
That's up to you, but Roger and I talked about it, cause I've had the experience where they want it done in 14 days.
Yeah, they say they will and they will.
Well, yeah, they differ from project to project, so I think if you wanna say that they can apply for an extension, I think we just need to say how long the extension would be, if you wanna be another 14 days, and, you know, is it limitless how many they can get, or, that's up to you guys.
Well, I mean, am I correct in reading this, that there doesn't prohibit them from coming getting another permit?
No, it
And then if they
doesn't.
need another permit, they can come and get it.
Yeah, you're right, it doesn't prohibit that.
Okay.
But I think what maybe Susan was saying is that maybe we need to mention in there that it can be renewed.
We could deny, you know, if they keep asking for one, I think we can probably deny it. I mean, if they
Well,
get-
that's what I was thinking, if it goes over 30 days, they need to come in and talk about what their plan is, or how soon they think if they may be done and get it out of there. Or is that would just be something that staff would have to deal with, I guess, I hate to put too many laws, cause there's extenuating circumstances always, and
Anyone else?
kinda depends upon where they are and how much trouble they're causing.
Well, I would move to approve ordinance 1474, construction of refuse dumpsters. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And moving second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Planning.
With council's permission, we will modify this ordinance number to 1373, since 1373 did not pass.
Oh.
I'm sorry, 1473.
right.
Oh, okay.
So Tiffany can keep all of our city ordinances in consecutive
Okay.
order.
I move to amend ordinance 1474 to 1473. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried 5-0. Planning and zoning discussion. This is in regards to, the attorney that was appointed to the planning and zoning. And, just to give you a little background, on Monday, February 10th meeting, it was approved, Councilperson Herbal approved to hire Brad Gantz, attorney, to help the planning and zoning commission work through the application for Verizon. Ray seconded, discussion was held regarding their hourly rate, whether the max amount should be included in the motion. Herbal moved to amend her previous motion to include hourly compensation of $125 an hour. Ray seconded, motion carried 5-0. The Verizon issue is no longer an issue, that's been taken care of. And then the second portion, on March the 9th, Councilperson Herbal moved to allow Brad Jantz to look at the parking lot policy with the planning commission. I seconded that motion, and it carried 41 with Costello opposed. There hadn't been any, as far as I know, there hadn't been any updates on the parking lot. It's still an issue, and that's been over a year now. But those were the two things that was voted on by the council. So I think we need to have a discussion if we're gonna continue. I think it needs to be voted on in some fashion. Or otherwise, they can utilize our city attorney for any matters they have to come before them. So I'd like to open that up for discussion with the council at this time.
Well, it's my understanding that they're getting ready to maybe work on the books, maybe revise them or have somebody do that. And I know Brad's very good about on hands when we have a problem or a question, he answers it immediately. He doesn't go and call somebody to find the answer.
Well,
And I'd really like to see him stay on as an advisor to that council, or that board.
well, at this point in time, we don't know how much money we owe him. I mean, he has not submitted a bill to us, and, you know, our other debtors, they submit a bill to us, we don't call and ask them to submit a bill. They send it to us. And I think that my personal opinion is that, we need to discontinue this until we find out how much money we owe him, because we really don't know.
I told you, Dave, how much money, you're the one that talked to me a long time ago about getting things straightened out,
That's
bringing
enough.
somebody
We're
in.
having a discussion with the
I
council.
understand that.
You sit there and keep quiet. We're having this discussion, and then you can talk in the public forum if that's what you wanna do.
After the fact. So that's how the board gets treated,
That's
huh?
enough.
It's the board's decision.
I don't wanna hear another outburst from you. We're gonna handle this between the council. This is the council's opportunity to discuss this, and that's what we're gonna do right now. I'm not opposed to you guys having an attorney to assist you. I'm telling you, we approved it for these two things. One of them got done, and one of them is a year later and nothing's been done about it.
That's
Now,
because
just a minute, I'm talking, I got the floor, nothing's been done about it. So we need to decide what we're gonna do in the future. I'm not willing to continue wondering how much we owe this man. I don't know how the rest of the council feel about it.
Well, Dave, let's give him a chance to turn in a bill and see what we owe. And he's still working on the parking lots, cause I still think that's an issue, and
That's been a year.
You know, but he can't control that board.
Are we gonna continue this for 2 or 3 more years?
No, but I think he needs to be a consultant to that board, because he's on hand, he knows the answers immediately.
The point is, he's approved to be a consultant for two things, one which is resolved, one which is not. Is he being used for more than that?
Yeah, he's being used for a lot of other things that the council did not.
Approved.
Okay, could we just make him a consultant to the planning board, period, and not put a,
With an unlimited budget, or,
no, not an unlimited budget.
well, what are we gonna put a budget at for something that's
No.
open-ended?
Well, I don't know. We have a city attorney that's kind of open-ended, and she handles everything that we ask her to handle.
And we have some experience there, what a jobs.
Do we have a budget
assigned
for
or
her?
Jobs have gotten done.
I'm just saying, I think they need experienced help.
Well, I think Mr. Jantz needs to give us a bill on what we owe him, an itemized statement, how many hours he spent on everything. That's exactly what our attorney does.
I agree.
And until that's done, then after that's completed, planning and zoning can come back to us and ask for assistance. But up to this point, I'm opposed to utilizing him any longer until we know what we owe him.
And for what? Is it stuff we've approved him to work on, or is it something other than we've approved?
That, if they wanna come back to us with a recommendation of what they wanna use him for, they can present that to the council. I think we need to set a limit on how much can be spent. The planning and zoning budget is $6,000. Right now, their unexpended budget is $5,658.96. We're in, April right now. So we can't go over that $6,000 amount. So we need to know what's gonna be limited or not limited.
Mr. Mayor, may I say something, please? Part of what happened in this amount of time that added to it was we have an interim zoning administrator. That made a big difference in what was going on.
Would I be able to speak to, please? just more context is all I'm looking to provide.
Well, I'll tell you right now, you can speak, but there's not gonna be any argument about what's going on.
Definitely, no, I'm not here to argue at all.
You can give your opinion.
Yeah. So I'm Terry Jones, I'm the vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Another thing to add on to Margot's comment is, the parking regulations are a lot more complex than it sounds. You can't just change them overnight. These have been in existence for years and years and years. Specifically when it comes to the gravel parking lots. To make things even harder and make them take longer, is you can't just change the regulations in the middle of an issue. Well, with things that have happened in the past, these gravel parking lots keep popping up and keep popping up and keep popping up. So we can't make those changes until we address the current issues that we have. To make things even more complicated is this, where we're looking at redoing the regulations entirely, that makes things even more complicated. So there's a lot more to it. I completely agree and understand with the billing, and you specifically called out for certain reasons. I'm 100% on board with that. Let's make it, correct. But there's a lot more to it than just we're twiddling our thumbs.
Could I present this to your attorney, see if she's in agreement with what I told you, on who has the authority of that?
You can confer with our attorney after the meeting. I don't have a problem with that. That's up to her,
Well,
if she wants to.
Pat Hughes is pretty sharp attorney.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that, Darvin. I'm telling you, I've got a problem with the fact that we don't know how much we owe him. I don't care what he told you. If he was sitting here tonight and told us, it'd be a different story.
I'll get it.
And I'm not saying that I don't believe what you're saying, but he needs to send us an hourly documentation of what he did and how much he charged for that. Now, I don't know how many hours he's got, but he's met with you guys every single month since February. Okay, has he met with 3 hours last month, 4 hours the month before that, 1 hour? We don't know. So we needed an itemized statement from him and documentation of what we owe him, and right now, we owe him for all of 2020, from February to December, and that's an unencumbered expense that should have been taken care of in January.
From March, wasn't
February, right here, February the 10th.
It doesn't.
it? Yeah, it don't make no
That's
difference.
really
One
reasonable.
month. But, yeah,
And
no,
The
and,
second one was March.
right, and he did agree that he should have probably sent that out, but he said with COVID and everything going on, that's his deal, but like I said, I would have thought that if they wanted to close the books out, the administrator or the clerk could have done that. Because I do know that they'll send out memos not to be spending stuff on credit cards at the end of the year so they can close the books out.
Well,
So there ain't much difference there.
Well, since the planning board has a meeting on the 27th of this month, maybe we could ask him to turn in his bill, and then the council can revisit it.
well, we're gonna have to address the fact that what we approved for him to do is not what they're asking for. They're asking for him a permanent,
That,
and that's
one more,
something that they need to come back to this council and ask for, but in the meantime, I don't
the
think
problem,
we should utilize him until we get an itemized statement from him with the billing of what we owe. Having said that, I will move to cease funding support for separate legal counsel to the Marion Planning and Zoning Commission. And, I'll entertain a second.
If you state that again,
I move to cease funding support for separate legal counsel to the Marion Planning and Zoning Commission. In the meantime, they can utilize the city attorney until we get this straightened out. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. I would just suggest that you go to your planning commission meeting and decide what it is you want this council to.
Yeah,
to look at.
we'll do that. The problem we have, Dave, is too many times we do stuff and then there's certain people that don't like the findings of what we got legal advice on, and we get upside down there, so then we're back at the same board. That's what's actually been going on in the planning and zoning. I agree, this stuff should have been done 8 months ago, but it can't happen when you got other people mingling when they don't have the authority all over the board. And that's where the governing body here needs to understand on who that power is granted to for the zoning and the zoning appeals board. I don't think it's an understanding with that.
Okay. Let's see. Item 11, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor, I have something.
Go ahead.
It's not negative.
Yay!
Good.
As we're all aware, I'm gonna take this down so you can understand this. Our cops are having a hard time. I mean, I think, and then I read the paper, and I don't wanna leave any names out, Chief Jeffrey, but I read where poor, our assistant had to subdue people. And, you know, this is small town America. This is what's happening in our town. But yet, we have our policemen we expect to take care of it, and they're doing a very good job.
Thank you.
And that's the bottom line that I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
So I would say keep your seatbelt on anyway, cause you're getting.
Very good, Jerry.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Yeah.
an email I'd like to share with the council. This comes from the Kansas Sunshine Coalition, and it's written by Max Kosh. And copies was sent to an Allison Mozzie, who is the president of Kansas Association of Broadcaster, Ron Keefover, president of Kansas Sunshine Coalition, and Emily Bradbury, Kansas Press Association. And Max Kosh, attorney at law, wrote this. It says, Mrs. Herbal, on behalf of the Sunshine Coalition, I am happy to answer the email you sent to Mr. Keefover today. The city appears to be violating the law, although your status as a commissioner has no bearing on whether a CORA request is granted or not. Your authority to request and receive records under the law is based simply on your status as a member of the public. The bills you are seeking are in the possession of the city, which makes them public records under Kansas State Statute 45-217, paragraph G. You could execute a written CORA request with the city for the records you are seeking that indicates the language necessary to trigger the city's explanation for withholding the records as required by Kansas State Statute 45-218, paragraph D. In my experience, once faced with this issue, the records are often disclosed because the clerk gets the idea that there is no legal basis to withhold them. But even if your written request is denied, you will still come out ahead, because you will learn the city's basis for the denial, which is information you can use to continue the leverage of the proper outcome. Ultimately, of course, these steps should not be necessary. The record should be turned over, especially given your role as a commissioner. The unwillingness of the city to disclose information to its own leaders is something local media would likely be interested in. That was written by Max Kosh. And this all started when I requested a copy of the KPP billing.
Yeah.
And Tiffany replied to my email, and she said, Kansas State Statute 45-218D states every valid CORA request is directed to be acted upon as soon as possible, no later than the third business day following the date of request. And that particular state statute says, each request for access to public records shall be acted upon as soon as possible, but no later than the end of the third business day following the date the request is received. If access to public records is not granted immediately, the custodian shall, and shall be mandatory, give a detailed explanation for the cause for further delay and the place and earliest time and date that record will be available. I since then have received a copy of the KDP invoice, which I'm very thankful for. Thank you.
You received a copy of what you asked for?
Yeah, today, Roger gave it to me before the meeting.
So what?
There's some other copies that I asked for, some resolutions and ordinance. If you'd like to have them listed, I might have them here.
If you're making claims that we're doing something illegal, I think you need to bring it to
Okay.
the council.
All right. Let me just finish this up then. Let me see if I can find my papers. Okay, first of all, in the city code book, it states the following. The following city officers are hereby appointed as official custodians for the purpose of the Kansas Open Record Act, and are hereby charged with responsibility for compliance with the act with respect to the hereinafter listed public records. A, city clerk. All public records kept and maintained in the city clerk's office, and all public records not provided for elsewhere in this section. And it goes on down and it says city treasurer, chief of police, fire chief, city attorney, and court of municipal court. Those are all records out of the office, not kept in the office. So we have to have a person in charge of the records, is what I'm saying.
Okay, wait, I think we all understand that and know it. What is it you're saying that you would deny?
Well, just a minute, let me find it. Okay, this was sent on 4/16. It says, I am requesting March invoice for the Kansas Power Pool, which Jan refused to give me this morning. If it isn't possible to give me an explanation why I cannot get these, please email all the results. And it says,
Requested what? What was it?
It's Kansas Power Pool invoice for March. And Roger gave me that this afternoon. And I would also like a copy of the resolution 21-17 dated February 22nd, 2021. And I talked to Becky, and she said she would give me the kilowatts divided into categories every month, and I asked for that.
You received that one?
No, I haven't received the resolution or the kilowatts divided into categories at all, so. I think we're working on getting this worked out, but. Do you have any other questions, Dave?
No, what's the resolution number you're talking about?
It's 21-7 dated February the 22nd, 2021.
And what's in the reference to?
Yeah, I don't have those notes with me.
Okay. Any further?
He didn't ask if any of our staff had anything.
I ain't, no,
Haven't got there yet.
hadn't had a chance to
Oh, okay,
yet.
I thought it did,
Yeah, you
No,
covered it.
counselors came first, next is departments and staff.
You got anything else you wanna say?
I don't think, what I mean is, I think they're doing a very good job. I mean, that was my bottom line.
Okay.
And I thought, that why do we have to, this nice little peaceful place, that people like that invade us, and they have to take up the slack,
Mhm.
you know?
Anyone else? Clinton, you have anything you wanna say?
Nope.
Okay, Margot?
It was busy in the park. We had a bike tour followed by a prom, followed by a kid's birthday yesterday.
Randy, do you have anything?
Nothing further except that the Small Business Administration finally released some information about the restaurant act that I shared with all 8 of our restaurateurs today, so.
Okay. Susan,
No, sir.
Tiffany, Roger, anything further?
Archie,
Yes.
Oh,
You need
yeah,
to
well, I guess,
introduce him.
you got anything you wanna say tonight, Chief?
Yes, I want to thank you all for your vote of confidence, and Roger, I hope to talk to you briefly after the meeting, and make sure I know who to talk to and all that in the city. Okay,
Welcome aboard.
thank you.
Okay, public forum, anybody wish to address the council in public forum? Can you step up to the microphone, please?
All right, as mentioned before, I'm Terry Jones. I'm the vice chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I want to provide a little bit more context, but also, make a request. I'm not speaking for anybody else on the commission, just myself, so, these are my thoughts and opinions, but, I do know that we're all working really hard. We basically have 2 problems. The first problem is there's a lot of things that have happened in the past, that were not done correctly. And they create problems today, where if we wanna do things correctly, follow our own regulations, we have to address those and fix those. Those are causing a lot of headaches. The other part of it is things are being done incorrectly today, and then still come back to us and we have to address those. Good example of the first situation, let's just skip that. So, just get the point is, what I request is better communication. I had no idea that anything related to planning and zoning was on the agenda tonight until I happened to see it on Facebook. When, new zoning administrator is being appointed, or if our legal counsel is being discussed, I'd like to just be in the know. So my request is just keep us apprised of what's going on there. The other side of that is, with the problems that are coming through now, a lot of times the communication is breaking down either between the Planning and Zoning Commission or city staff or whoever it is. Somebody might say, you can do this, well, by the regulations you cannot. Then it turns into a big disaster and a mess, and people get angry, and usually they're angry at us. But all we're trying to do is follow the laws that we have as they are. Yes, they're terrible, and that's why we're trying to basically overhaul them all, but they're still on the books and we still need to follow them. So, again, that communication could prevent a lot of these issues. Let us get out ahead of them, prevent them from happening, or have us involved in these discussions, not arguments, I don't wanna argue. But I would like to have our voice as a commission heard as far as, zoning administrator, legal counsel, or whatever else you're discussing. So, just know that we're working hard, we're trying to do things the right way. We're trying to follow our own regulations. Progress is happening,